will call this meeting to order at 6:06 p.m. So I choose as always to recognize that our school division is situated on the traditional land of the many Indigenous people who use the waterways in the Peace region to make this place home for so many. It is a privilege not only to recognize this publicly, as I often do, but to do so in room of leaders who, by your position, have the ability to influence the thinking of your peers on the board and within the division and the community at large. Also review our universal guiding principles. So for everything we decide and do, we'll hold ourselves accountable and ask, is it good for students? Will it build trust and good relationships? Will it help us improve? Is it a responsible thing to do? And are we being open, honest, and ethical? All right, I'm looking for a motion to, well, I guess any additions to the agenda? No, then I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Trustee Tiedemann? Any discussion? All those in favor? Perfect, okay. Trustee self-declaration of a conflict of interest. Is there anything on the agenda that makes you believe you might have a conflict of interest? No, okay, so then I'm looking for a mover to approve the committee of the whole meeting minutes from May 26, 2026. Trustee Brown? Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you for that. And we also have regular board meeting minutes of May 26, 2026. Looking for a mover. Vice Chair Cook. Any discussion? All those in favor? Perfect. I'm moving right along. Board chair reports. So the ASBA spring general meeting. Vice Chair Cook, Trustee Brown, Trustee Wilman, Trustee Bain, and Superintendent Robinson and myself attended the SGM in Calgary. As a director for the organization, we were happy to provide an update on the work of the organization, which is substantial since our last meeting in the fall. We also successfully passed a budget that reflects our sustainability plan. We're looking forward to the feedback from the boards and from across the board on what we did well at that meeting and as well as what we can improve on for future meetings, including the planning's already happening for the fall meetings. So yeah, it was a good meeting. There was lots going on, but Trustee Brown will give a more fulsome report on what it means to our division. So not at this time though. No, it's on the agenda, isn't it?
Next.
Yeah.
Use up.
It's very soon. Imagine it's coming up. Also, Superintendent Robinson and I attended the Northwestern Alberta Foundation's 7/7, not 70/7, but 7/70 event, in which former Superintendent Radbourne was awarded, selected to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's in no small part to his actions leading the division, creating the education foundation, as well as all of the other work that he's done in the hockey community and the sports community in general, and city council and just broader. It was a really great event, and to see him honored and to see people telling stories about his work, whether it was here or in the division. And actually, former Superintendent McDonald was the MC for the event. So I took a picture of all three superintendents and all three superintendents, which was kind of cool. It was a really nice activity.
It was remarked that you had your pickup models, you could get a model in its 50s, a model in its 60s, and a model in its 70s.
Yes, that's right. We obviously went with the younger model for this. You don't get called that very often, I bet. It was actually a really great event, and so, I mean, everyone has 100 events that they go to a year, but this one was it's inspirational. Because the Superintendent Robinson, it was interesting to hear the difference these people are making in their community. It was really good. I recommend it.
What was common? Can-do attitudes.
Yeah.
And one of the people who spoke talked about, the power of like-minded people with shared purpose getting together and doing things to benefit community. Really resonated through all 7 of the people who had a chance to speak, because that's what they did.
The other one,
Continue to do.
The other one that stuck with someone from last year's event and then stuck with me from this year's event was, you're in this community and your volunteer work or your commitment or your involvement is how you pay rent to your community for the time you spend in it. So I thought that was an interesting kind of catchphrase for it. But any questions on those? No? Okay, and then I'll move to you, Trustee Brown, on as the spring general meeting.
Okay, so we started off with the Right Honorable Prime Minister Stephen Harper. We had a nice chat with him, and he talked about leadership, collaboration, and a few little comments on things going on in Alberta. It was really interesting to listen to him. And we had a panel with Janet Brown, Evan Menzies, and Rob Breckenridge. And they talked about and shared stats on where Alberta stands politically right now. And that was really interesting to listen to and just to see how they break things down. So it was lots of questions, lots of comments. It was really good. The business meeting the next day, we had updates from President Shelley, VP Devana, and Dr. Aboud. We had the Minister of Education and Childcare, Minister Nicolaitis spoke for over an hour, I believe. He was there for quite some time. He thanked the boards for what we do, and he talked about complexity dollars. Mentioned that there's a new student support framework coming soon. And there was some clarification of his thoughts on Bill 25 and a Q&A that he took a lot of questions for that. So it's good. And then as we mentioned in the business meeting, we approved the budget for 26-27. There were some revised bylaws for housekeeping, just removing some wording. There was a discussion on fully funded K-12 education. And guess what I meant to mention too is in President Shelley's update, she talked about the strategic plan and what's happening with that. And then I'm going to ask Trustee Wellman to do the PD comment because I was not there on the Tuesday.
That was an interesting keynote style speaker on strategic. She was a former undercover police officer for drug enforcement, and so being able to put yourself in the place of direction and what was it?
Influence.
And it was tactical influence. So it was making sure that you can be very effective in your role by being very tactical. Are those, we have, for PBSA, everything is on the site. I have to do the same thing. I didn't check.
They sent an email up today with all the resources from last time.
It was engagement.
And then there was a time for individual trustee PD as well at the very end. So.
Any questions?
No, just as a comment, I just emailed out the picture of us with Stephen Harper.
Oh,
They just sent them later today with all the pictures, so I just happened to open that as the email to everybody.
Yeah, that's great. Donna probably already has it framed in her office.
Her book.
And I cut everybody else out. No.
6 versions of herself.
Kidding. kidding. It was great. It was a really great spring meeting.
Okay, no questions for trustee Brown, so we'll move to trustee Wilman on the Public School Boards Association Spring General Meeting of the days before that.
The highlights I wanted to bring forward, I like the idea of the consent thing of being able to put it all in writing. The highlights I wanted to bring back from that 3 days that we spent before ASBA was the PD that we had. So we had Kevin, oh shoot, I forget his name.
Cameron?
Cameron,
Yeah.
the end of the day, yeah.
My brain sticks to his face, but not his name, because it's fine. Okay, so some of the highlights out of that is he had a 86-page in color handout that we appreciated for Vitra that focused on neurodivergence, because coming out of the pandemic, we've seen an increase in his consultation on cases of 400%. And a good half or more of those are centered on neurodivergent students. So that was an entire package and session based on that, which I found very informative. We had one on compassion fatigue and burnout. That's out of the University of Calgary. So that was their 6 years of research on that. Showing significant worsening mental health distress across all educational roles with mid-career females at the highest risk right now. The message was that well-being is a collective, not an individual effort, requiring a system and school level investment. So that was very interesting. And then the last one I wanted to highlight was Dr. Curtis Roop's PBSA presentation about funding, actually. He highlighted that while public funding has only increased by 13%-ish, public or private school funding has grown about 30% in that same amount of time. And he tied that directly to the pressure showing up in public classrooms. And he had really good slides that looked like that. I really encourage you to sign in to PBSA because all of those slides are there. Plus, you'd be able to see the video of Donna, because the last one was we had a media consultant talk to us about best practices. So Donna had to get up in front of the class and get interviewed by Grant Ainsley.
And by class, trustee Wilman's referring to 225 people. As she stood there and was interviewed with the camera in her face and did a spectacular job. You can see it yourself. That session itself was really valuable, was around media training for, it was kind of taking a traditional approach to it. There aren't a lot of camera and microphone interviews anymore at our level or even at the municipal level. But the thinking you need to do to how you respond to questions you're asked, whether it's formally or informally, was really quite well timed professional development, I thought.
I had the weekend in general was really well spent. I liked PBSA better than it, so.
PS. I know P.
Yep.
Acronyms are not my favorite.
Any questions? Oh, trustee.
I don't have a question. I just also wanted to add about the AI presentation.
Oh, shoot. I
The
forgot.
AI presentation was very eye-opening, and it still is resonating with me, some of the things that we heard and things that are going to happen, have happened. So that was a really interesting and engaging session. With Dr. Bill McCrae from the Alberta Teachers Association that did it. And he's, I think we call him an expert in the field. So that was a really excellent PD opportunity as well.
It was a heavy day, lots of heavy topics, but well worth it.
Any questions for trustee Wilman or the team that was there? Thanks for that report. Moving on to non-instructional staff, trustees on this side of the table.
Not a lot to report. There was a lot of follow-up business that we determined the meeting before, and we were just following up with some of those things. We set the tentative days for next year, and we shared a meal together and had a bit of a visit while everybody was kind of counting down to the end of the month, and maintenance was looking forward to getting everybody out of school so they could get into them. And so it was a really positive meeting. It's a very engaged committee, and they do a lot of valuable things for us.
No, I would echo the same thing. It's nice to be able to connect with them. Obviously, we've only had a few opportunities to meet as part of the meeting cycle goes, but very engaged group, and it was such a pleasure.
Good, thank you for that. Student Advisory Committee, I'm not sure which one of you is reporting for
I
that.
can start, and if anybody else has input, they're more than welcome for sure. So of course, Student Advisory Committee was held last Friday on June 5th. Facilitated by Assistant Superintendent Frigus and Director Burgess. They did a phenomenal job. I think it's really exciting to see the young leaders in action. I think we've reported on that before, but the group is just so dynamic, and they're all willing to participate, and it was really great to see. The amount of collaboration and teamwork was phenomenal. So this session really focused on the art of communication. So they talked about what it means to be a good communicator, the importance of talking with meaning and thinking about how you're going to communicate was one of the topics, and some of the activities that they did around that. They also did some in-person icebreakers out in the parking lot, which was great. So they got all twisted up into a chain and tried to figure out how to untangle themselves, working with each other and using physical cues, whether it was like squeezing arms or hands, or like communicating and saying, hop over this arm, right? And so it was really good to see how they solve that. Really good to see the interaction and the teamwork. Students also talked a little bit about some of the results of the assurance survey. They reviewed that and offered some input on some of the survey results that we were a little bit more curious about. So I'm sure that Assistant Superintendent Curtis will chat a little bit more about that future. And so that was pretty much it. I don't know if I missed anything else, but it was a great day again. Always nice to connect with the students, and great job to the leadership on developing that program.
Just to add in, one of the things they talked about too was the art of listening. Listening with intent as well. And that was really good. And what I found very interesting is as they were leaving, a lot of them were saying, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. And it was like, well, actually, thank you for doing this, but they were just also appreciative, and yeah, it's a really good crew.
Trustee Johnson, did you have anything you wanted to?
I don't have much to add. I think that Trustee Tiedemann did a great job explaining kind of like what the overview of the day was. Very exciting to see these students start to form plans for what they can do to increase student leadership and advocacy in their schools. It's cool to see some of their projects, and I'm excited next year to see some of them come to fruition. Again, hats off to those students for taking this on and doing it. It's not the easiest thing, I think, to put yourself out there as a student that age. So I'm very impressed.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks, Assistant Superintendent Frigus, for all your work on that committee too. Board Policy Committee, Vice Chair Cook, you have a ton of stuff on here. Turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. And I would just also draw your attention to our superintendent's memo that was to the Board of Trustees dated June 9th. That's sort of part of our package. And so our board package includes recommendations from the policy committee's review, and that basically is board policies 4, 5, and 18. And the committee did make several recommendations that were really intended to enhance the role clarity, so, for the roles of the chair, the vice chair, and also the superintendent. So in summary, what I'll do is just sort of highlight board policy 4, 5, and 18, and then I'll be looking for motions. I can make the motions, or we can make motions if you're in agreement. So the first one was the role of the chair. And so those amendments that we're suggesting to policy 4, they really include enhanced alignment with board policy 5, which is the role of the vice chair. And then further clarity around our standing committees, detail about the responsibility of the chair, to support the board in their governance work, the ex officio role, etc. So that's board policy 4, role of the chair. And then for board policy 5, that covered the role of the vice chair. And so what we tried to do there is make amendments to policy 5 that would give more detail about the function of the vice chair as a leadership role within the board. It increases expectations for the vice chair to lead some of the work of the board, supporting the chair. I mean, if we look at sort of the time commitment sort of the chair, it's important to support the chair, and the vice chair is in a position to do that. So some of the things that, have been done, but we needed to explicitly put in policy was, agenda development, responsibilities for board development practices. So really it was just, enhancing that policy. And then board policy 18 covers the role of the superintendent. And so those amendments that you saw, they focus on improving the role around the work of the superintendent to support the operations of the division and also the governance work of the board. So you would note in summary, like an increased focus on instructional leadership, embedding well-being. We've all talked about how important that is throughout our system, enhancing the role of the superintendent as an advisor to the board, clarifying expectations around the importance of the superintendent's role, particularly around building effective relationships, both within our division and outside the division and the larger community. So those really are sort of the high level, sort of lofty recommendations that we made, and I would like to really thank our committee and our superintendent. So Trustee Willman, Trustee Tiedemann, and Mrs. Westwater.
Maybe, John, if I might suggest, maybe we go through them one at a time to see if there's anything.
Okay.
Anything before you make the recommendations. That sound good?
Yeah, sounds great. So can we go back to sort of board policy 4, please? Yeah, which was, Any
questions or comments on the role of the chair?
Anything we missed?
I just comment in general. I think, the committee can jump into as well, Trustee Wilbur or Tiedemann, but I think all these are kind of characterized as enhancements of and providing more clarity is the kind of the focus. We didn't look at fundamentally making changes to what the role functioned like, but just to provide enhanced clarity around the specifics around what you actually do as the superintendent, as the chair, as the vice chair. So
I'm not seeing any hands, but I had a couple questions about this. And first off, just to say that I love the changes that you made for specificity and all of those things. But one thing that I thought was missing, and I thought it was in there and I didn't see it, was something about replying to emails addressed to the board. I thought we had something in there before, but maybe we didn't. So I did, I don't know, is there?
it's somewhere.
It was somewhere.
I thought it was too.
It didn't come out, so it doesn't exist in another part.
It must be somewhere, because I remember going around and about this, but I did write something anticipating that you guys wouldn't have it in your back pocket, not knowing I was gonna say it, but
That be considered as be the public and media spokesperson.
it would be considered in there, but I think when we're talking about specificity, having it clear, I think is the discussion that we've had previously, and I still think it probably is relevant.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna say this, and you guys can feel free to know, I'll just make it bigger for Ms. Westwater.
This guy will get the laptop.
So I put respond on behalf of the board to official emails sent to the full board. While not all correspondence requires a reply, the chair manages the items that do require a response. I don't know how you guys feel about that. But I was thinking about in practicality, what do I do? And I thought that kind of covered it.
I'm wondering if it's not focused just on official emails, but it's communications to the board, because it could look different.
Oh, communications is probably a good change.
I mean, somebody could drop a conventional letter off.
We have, didn't require a reply, but we have got handwritten letters. So communications probably makes good sense.
Like it.
Excuse me.
The other thing that I didn't see in there, Vice Chair Cook, and I see it in the vice chair role, is signing
Yes.
a date.
Oh,
Act as a signing officer for.
Oh, do you see it? What number is it?
yeah,
Okay, I just glossed over it then. Yep, okay, so
good,
it is.
good.
So
Um,
would the first change be to number, would you be adding that to number 8 or making a new one?
You could probably just put it under number 8, make it a new number 9, if,
Well, because
Okay.
Emery talks about you being the public media
Yeah.
spokesperson, so you could, if you maybe wordsmith that to including 8.1 official responses to.
Add it on in?
I would say those are just two different things as well.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay,
So have it as an additional point after, as a new
Okay.
9, and then shift the other ones down if the
Okay.
board agrees with that.
yeah, I like that. I do like that change. And you know, it's, you look at these things over and
I know.
over and we do that. You're absolutely right in practice. We've had several examples of that and we missed it. So thank you. I think that's a good addition.
Did anyone else have any other things as amended or for this specific policy?
Policy 19 has
But
the,
let's just start with 4.
it has the piece that.
Oh. 4 or 19 had it?
Not good if you wanted.
Just for clarity, it's policy 6, the trustee code of conduct, where it has the statement about the board chair is the spokesperson for the board and will have the responsibility to communicate the board's decisions, positions, unless the board directs otherwise. So that's typically where we were getting the language about responding to the public. So I don't know if you'd want to make that clear in both places, but I don't know if it applies to both,
But I
but
think,
just a point of,
yeah, no, I
Mm.
appreciate that, Assistant Secretary, but I think it needs to specifically say correspondence, because that,
Yeah.
to me, sounds like a decision, you know, I would.
made
be-
in this meeting.
Yeah, made in this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the rest of our committee thinks, but I like that addition. We just ask Mrs. Westwater to repeat that, the language one last time?
So respond on behalf of the board to official correspondence sent to the full board. While not all correspondence requires a reply, the chair manages the items that do require a response.
It was easy for you to say.
Did you actually hear that, Vice Chair?
I
Cook?
did. I sure did. Yeah, I sure did.
So if you're fine with that, you could make the motion for
Yes.
board policy 4
I would,
as amended.
yep, I would like to move the board adopt board policy 4, role of the board chair as revised.
That motion's in order. Any discussion? Oh, no, no discussion. No discussion. All right, all those in favor? And that board policy 4 passes.
Great, thank you. So we'll move on to board policy 5 again, which was the role of the vice chair. And we had a bit of discussion about that, but was there anyone that had any sort of questions or comments or additions to that board policy 5? And as we mentioned, we really wanted to align it with the board chair and enhance the role.
Not seeing any hands here. If you want to make your motion?
Yeah, I sure do. I would like to move that the board adopt board policy 5, role of the vice chair, as presented.
That motion's in order. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call question. All in favor? That motion passes. Thank you for that.
Great. And then finally, looking at board policy 18 and the superintendent of schools / CEO roles and responsibilities policy. Was there anything again that we missed or we would like to see added or discussed?
I had just a few little things.
Okay,
One, looking at under personnel 3.5, it says
Mhm.
establish effective staff recruitment and retention plan. I don't see anything there about like system succession planning.
Mhm.
And I do think that's something that you always do, so it might make sense to be in there. It could probably be added to that bullet point even.
Could we say something like, including, establish effective staff recruitment and retention plans, including for system leadership or something? Maybe there's a better way to say that.
I was gonna say, as we started on this, there's complex role has lots of parts to it, and I suspect this is one that over the tenure of our board and in my role that we'll come back to a couple of times as we recognize. I think it was quite outdated, to be honest. I looked at it briefly, but then looked at it with a more keen eye and thought it doesn't, as it stood, didn't really reflect the current work of the superintendent. I think it gets closer, but I bet we're going to
Mhm.
at some point look back at it again a little bit. But I think that, you know, adding intentional succession planning is something that's important. We got you.
I did have one more, I think, on 6.2. I didn't like the wording, and I know it's old wording, and I've looked at it a few times, but here we go. It says ... really keeping the board informed of all division matters. And I hate the term all in there. I think that's too vague, and I was wondering if consequential or relevant maybe fit a bit better here.
One of consequential matters.
Yeah, I mean, all, like, what is that?
Okay, what if we reworked it a little bit, because the most important part is after the comma, especially controversial and or highly sensitive issues, and so we could simplify it by just saying, keep, you know, I'll paraphrase it right now, but if you're okay with us building it later, talking about keeping the board apprised of all controversial and or highly sensitive issues.
I mean, just take out the word all though and just leave it as.
Yeah, we could do
informed
that.
of division matters. Just take out all.
It kind of exists, it's almost all with the all or without the all, it's still all, but then it's a little.
It's just so vague. Have you ever held someone accountable for all work?
You could say
I like-
board informed of controversial and or highly sensitive issues in a timely manner. Which is what we do.
Yeah, that could work. And as you say, we'll need to look at this again anyway, but it would be good to update that.
Can I just ask one question about 3.1?
Mhm.
Just even just based on a short conversation that we had in between the break, when it says authority and responsibility for all personnel matters, including the recruitment, hiring, supervision, evaluation, discipline, and termination of staff, except where the authority is explicitly retained by the board. Do we need termination of staff in there? Because when we had talked about that, we were talking about how it is the responsibility of the board.
That implies all staff, and so the element the board has retained is the termination of teachers because it exists in the Education Act, but the rest of staff are not included in the Education Act, and so reasonably the superintendent to have the authority for terminations outside of what legislation contains continues to make sense.
Not seeing any other hands in the room, Vice Chair Cook.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then I don't know how people feel, but I'm going to give this a go and say that I would like to move the board adopt board policy 18, superintendent of schools, CEO roles and responsibilities as revised.
That motion's in order. Any discussion?
Didn't we just have a movement like the?
So she's saying like as revised.
Okay.
So we'll include the. we'll
Yes,
include
that's
succession planning
revisions.
and then-
Our revisions, these revisions, all
Yeah.
revisions.
what we
Yes.
talked about.
Fair question. All right, call the question. All those in favor?
No.
He was voting.
Great polling station.
That motion passed, Vice Chair Cook.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, and thanks again for the work on policy.
All right, moving to advocacy and engagement committee of today, trustee Bowman.
Yeah, we have a verbal update being that happened 3 hours ago. The Advocacy and Engagement Committee will, we got to see a brand new folding thing. Yeah, the draft, it's not done yet. but it is something tangible, so that's fun. We spent our time meeting, providing feedback on that. Hoping for more finalized before we break for summer, but definitely before we come back in August. We debriefed about the meeting that we held with City Hall with our elected counterparts in the City Hall here back in May. Okay, and then we talked about the future meeting in August with our counterparts in the MLA offices. So those kinds of possible items and possible dates are going to come. So until we have more of a date sort of thing, we don't have that one for you, but topics, do you want to do that here? Okay. Topics included 25, obviously, any kinds of capital plans, so our Kensington area. And I'm blanking now.
We had a few things. There was our advocacy priorities, capital plans,
Implications of real property governance.
real property governance, and there was one other legislative changes, yeah.
Just as general topics, and so when we get closer to booking that time with our 2 local MLAs, we'll have a more defined agenda, and they will have items, of course, too, so Mrs. Westwater will work back and forth and targeting later August to have that meeting, which is traditionally when we hold it, and we host it here.
Any questions for trustee Millman?
Donna. I mean,
Yes.
trustee Cook.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And I don't know, not about the MLA meeting, but just for consideration for advocacy. And it came because of the Alberta School Board Association and, you know, the former Prime Minister, the Honorable Stephen Harper, talking about, you know, his experience with education. And it prompted me to think about whether or not we perhaps would ever consider meeting with our federal MP, Chris Warkington, just to keep him informed. He meets with so many people that we also meet with. And again, it's just a consideration. And I just wondered whether it was ever a topic for advocacy to consider.
As someone who's been on that committee before, I don't mind answering that. We have talked about meeting with our federal MP, but we've always wanted those specific topics of importance and timeliness, I think. So if there's a relevant topic and it makes sense, then I think it makes, then I think it makes good sense.
Typically, there's not a lot of crossover jurisdictionally between what federal MPs attend to and what local school boards do. And I saw that with the Honorable Stephen Harper, even talking about, you know, not really knowing our business, but still being able to give leadership advice. Somewhere in our travels around advocacy, one of the presentations talked about the limited opportunity there is the limited purpose there is in meeting with federal politicians because of the disconnect between what we do and what they do. Where I think there is that opportunity is, and we know this, that we do, because Grand Prairie is a small area, we get to cross paths with people like our local MP on a regular basis, and that's where the advocacy work can come up. I don't know about a meeting necessarily, but if there's a topic, for sure, something to consider.
But if I had had our new sheet, I would have given it to him a few weeks ago when I seen him at the paper meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair point. But if the advocacy committee feels like there's a relevant topic that makes sense, then I think they would submit it to the board for
Consideration.
Yeah, for sure. Fair point. Any other questions for trustee Millman?
I have a question for
yourself.
in that light, would it be if we knew of some federal grants, would that be the engagement side of it, or that would just give you?
Yeah, the board doesn't really do grants, but administration does.
You butter them up. Okay.
But I suspect that our MP is not adjudicating.
No.
I mean, somebody in the system,
You can just tell them.
he's got other things to whip.
Thank you for that report. Individual trustee reports, trustee.
I attended ASBA with their trustees. It was my first time going. It was sometimes interesting. It was nice to get to meet people. I found most of the speakers quite engaging. And that's really it. That's all I kind of got to. Yeah. Trustee Bowman.
My big highlight was the Apple Schools tour, which is in the superintendent's report. So it was,
Talking about-
okay. It was pretty enlightening. We got to go to Alexander Forbes. And it wasn't just for us, it was for city councilors, it was for fundraising geniuses like Carmen, and a bunch of different stakeholders to come and see all of the important work that comes around in that wellness piece, either from the healthy foods to the just being really kind to each other, to intramurals and all of everything. So it was a really good pitch. For why all that stuff should still exist in schools even when their grant runs out. So if we can, I would love to see it in every single school. Thanks for that report.
Just for
So to add on to the Apple schools, it was interesting for me to see because I was a principal when Apple schools first started a long time ago, and it was not what it is today. That's what they were hoping for. And so it was really nice to see how far they've come and the great things that they're able to do, you know, that they started so long ago. And it was a really nice experience, and it is something that what I like about it is they work really hard in the school to establish those routines and practices, and then the goal is that eventually they'll move to another school, but they will stay in that school and they will continue to be fostered. So I think it's an excellent opportunity for students and staff. It's great.
Yeah, I also attended the Apple School tour on the 4th and exactly what the other trustees have already said. Great program. It's really exciting to see how it's impacting our students in the division.
Trustee Johnston.
Nothing for tonight, thank you.
Mr. Cook.
Just pretty happy. It's very busy last sort of few weeks, and I can only imagine what it's like for our teachers and staff, and excitement for the students. But glad to be a part of ASBA and PSBA, and yeah, busy times as they told me today in Manning, 13 days and counting is what they have left for school days.
That's great. I had something that I wanted to say at the beginning of the meeting and I totally forgot because I didn't read my notes properly, but I did want to, I'm stealing your
I
thunder.
want to steal yours for omitting it.
I just wanted to congratulate our Associate Superintendent Olive Jelly for having a debut. It's really adorable.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
When you get home, you can show Zakai this video.
They'll come now.
Pardon
And now,
Yeah.
watch them all the time.
The only other thing besides the stuff that's been talked about, Trustee Bain and I attended pancake breakfast where it was great to see all the outfits and the pancakes, and we had a really good time. It was good fun. Other than that, we're moving on to the superintendent's report. I'll pass it over to you, Superintendent Robinson.
Thanks very much, Chair Nellis. I have 3 items that I'm going to talk about. The first one is the Indigenous Lead Teacher Program, and really something that we're quite pleased. If you attended our meeting with the City Council a couple of weeks ago, you got a sneak peek at what we were talking about because I had the opportunity, just in response to one of the questions that was asked, to talk about a shift in the program. But I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Terrian to talk in detail about why and what that position and that role looks like supporting truth and reconciliation in our system.
Thank you, Superintendent Robinson. We've added a position that we're calling our Indigenous Education Lead. The purpose of the lead is to, as was in Superintendent Robinson's report, to build teacher and administrator capacity to embed Indigenous pedagogy in our schools and classrooms through curriculum. The purpose of having added this position is we've spent the better part of the last 3 years very intentionally of our last 3-year ed plan, advancing truth and reconciliation through cultural appreciation. A big piece of our next step is to advance our truth and reconciliation through education through our teaching and learning. Not losing our belonging and leadership goals when it comes to truth and reconciliation, but really helping to move our learning into the curriculum and through the curriculum for classrooms and for all students. So her role will be primarily in helping educators apply the knowledge and skills that we've included in our Indigenous education guiding document, but also in supporting our team of Indigenous liaisons to continue to do the work that they do in schools, where they really do significant in-reach with students in schools and supporting students to attend regularly and be prepared and ready for learning. So we're excited about the role.
And that's one point of clarity. I used the word add and Mr. Terrian added the word add as well, and it's actually reorganizing programming. And so for the better part of 15 years, we've had an Indigenous program lead who was not an educator. And we've had a number of people in that role over the last few years and have always thought that having somebody with an education background who can embed teaching and learning and lead the team would be the right thing, and things lined up perfectly to have a candidate who can do that work. And so in the community or among the system, people talk about additions. It's actually not, it's a repurposing of a role that already existed. So just want to highlight that bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe a question, Director Terry. I was thinking about this, and at first I was kind of wondering why you thought that was the right thing at the right time. But I think I've moved away from that, and I'm wondering, what would it look like in practice? What do you hope to see from making this change?
That's a great question. Her and I have met a few times already to talk about what that looks like. She spoke a lot about that through her interview about what that looks like. She's got a strong background in developing and applying planning to new curriculum. And so not only did she help provide feedback into the new curriculum from a Métis perspective, but she was able to work with our teachers recently on new curriculum and curriculum implementation. So she's got a lot of that background. What it looks like is similar to the same way that we implement new curriculum or curriculum for science. We build a strong understanding of the curriculum, as well as looking at different resources on how we can bring that curriculum to life in the classroom. Looking to really advance for teachers, TQS5, which is providing Indigenous foundational knowledge to all students. And so making sure that we're helping empower teachers to be able to do that. So her work really is in the professional learning for administrators and schools. She'll be a part of some of the professional learning days. She'll be doing professional learning through our office here, through some different release that she has to bring working groups in to develop planning and resources for different grade levels. So yeah,
Look to meet her next year, because part of the planning already around reports to the board will be the work that she's doing. Okay, good. No question. Second, actually, the next two items really relate to music, and the first one is, and it included in my report, but recognition of the Grand Prairie Music Parents Association and their significant donation of over $4,600 to a variety of schools. They're listed in the report. I won't list them now, but that excellent work that group of volunteers does to support music programming, not just in our division, but across the city and other divisions is something that is worth celebrating. And so typically schools have an opportunity to write proposals to the association to purchase supplies and equipment to supplement programming that exists. And it's a long-standing partnership that we've had with the GP Music Parents Association, and wanted to include it in the report, but also include it in the meeting to celebrate it. And would like to suggest that an official correspondence from the Board of Trustees be sent to their board, thanking them for their ongoing support. And if that's meets people's nods of agreement, then that's something that Mrs. Westbourne and I can put together and have ready to be sent to them before the year ends.
Yep, see, we had that.
Don't want to miss that, misrecognizing that. So highlighted for that reason. And the second one is Music in the Park 2026, which was a great event, and this year held in the park. Sometimes it has to be held in a building, this time held in a park. And so that chance to be at the amphitheater in Muskogee to showcase the different music programs throughout the division is always a great evening and a good opportunity to be out in nature, but also to see our students doing what they really love to do, which is performing and celebrating. So I want to thank our division music coordinator, Craig McLaughlin, and all of the teachers who coordinate that and make that event happen. And there were a lot of people in attendance, and the weather couldn't have been better. And so a nice time to celebrate students, and they always do a good job of highlighting and showcasing that. So I wanted to do that as well in this meeting. And then I was going to comment on 7/70, but that's completed. That's the extent of my report.
Any questions for Superintendent Robinson? That's you. Thanks for that. So see you, Superintendent O'Leary.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess I have 2 items on my report. The first one is quite brief, which is the annual operations and maintenance report. So that report just shows a list of work that the team gets to do over the summer. For most, probably more than half of our staff, once June 25 comes, or the end of June, schools shut down, and that's really when Director Barron's crew really gets to work to get the schools ready for the fall. So these are just some of the key things that are going to be in addition to the routine maintenance, right? So typically they would change out all the floor, like the gyms are, across all the schools, right? They would clean out all the classrooms, but that's not listed on here. These are just the typical big ticket items that's in addition to those things. And specifically because they are grant funded. So 2 categories of grant funding there. So the first one would be that's tied to the CMR funding. So those are the ones that are more long-term or capital in nature. That will be more than 1 year. So you say things like roof replacements and asphalt repair. So that'll be the sidewalk. I mean, not the sidewalk, like on school grounds and things like that. So typically, Director Barron and Al would go to all the schools and ask the principals what they would like to see over the summer, and then they'll kind of come up with their work plan. So that's where that comes from. So available for us right now is about $1.6 million to handle that work, and then that we're going to spend about $600,000, which will kind of give us more money in the future for what that could look like. So just wanted to highlight that. And then the other piece is probably the things that anyone that was in the school in the fall will probably notice. If you see new paints, if things are really shiny, things are really bright. So that's really what that is, without really day-to-day maintenance and things like that. Or if there's a new classroom that needs to be done, or new windows and things like that. So these are more, I would say, cosmetic in nature, but they are very visible, right? And so that's where we'll use the IMR grant that goes for those ones. And as I mentioned during the budget, the IMR grant is being merged together with the operational and maintenance grant starting next year. But internally, we've still decided to keep them separate so we can track those as well, just to make sure that we're able to report on those. But as far as the provincial government is concerned, they've kind of merged those 2 grants together. So for us right now, officially, we would have 776 that we have available over the summer, and then we'll see where that takes us into the fall. And then specifically, in addition to that, some school-specific projects. So we have the working with the 2 modelers for Spokane happening in the fall. So there's a lot of work happening already in the background, working with the ministry to approve the site plans and to make sure that we have all the things ready for 2 modelers. I'm surprised at the amount of work that we're having to do to get it going, but we, there's a lot of communication that's happening right now. So hopefully we'll have that ready for September or October. So that's kind of the goal. That's what we're working towards right now. So, Nick, any questions about the work plan? Perfect. So then going on to the to Q3 budget update. So this would cover the first 9 months of the year, from September up until May. So typically by this time of the year, we would expect our revenues to be at 75%, our expenses to be 75% as well. So in the appendix there, you would see the actual report, but just to not overly speak with numbers and go straight to the point. So our revenues are year to date, it's at 78.6% compared to the same period last year, which is at 77.1%. So a couple of things there. So for the revenue, the grant funding from Alberta Education and Childcare is a bit higher than we had budgeted for. So a couple of reasons for that. The retro pay for teachers came in over the course of the year, and then also the timing of when. Yeah, so that's mostly where that came from. It's really the retro pay, and we also had, I think, 3 or 4 grant announcements that happened during the school year as well. Most recently, the complexity grant that happened recently. So that's where that increased amount is coming from for Alberta Education. The other thing I wanted to highlight would be under other sales and services. So right now it's trending a bit higher at 108% of our budget compared to last year of 157%. Again, these are things that we do our best to get where we think the year's gonna shake out, but we don't necessarily have control over some of those things. But included in that number, why it's a bit higher this year, we have a couple of grants, so $36,000 from Microsoft. That's kind of helping us with our AI readiness and co-pilot training that select field staff are going through right now. So that's part of that, and as well as $20,000 fundraising from Ivy Macklin. They're doing some fundraising project at Ivy Macklin, so that's $20,000 there. And then the other amount that's there would be the $260,000 from ATA for the strike benefit that we paid as a division that we just got reimbursed for recently. So that's already showing up on our other revenue. So that's why it's a bit higher this year compared to last year. Yeah, besides that, any questions? Those are the 2 things I wanted to highlight on the revenue. If you had any question on that. Okay, on the expenses side of things, this year so far, we're at 77.2%, slightly higher than last year at 76.9%, which, almost the same, but a couple of things there. So with the teacher settlement, so there's a net impact there. So last year we had the children's principal EA that was part of the staffing, but this year it's not. And then you also combine that with the reduced staffing for during the strike, how much we had to pay back in salary, with our salary. So the net of those kind of we're still at that 77%. But then you also factor in the 3% increase as well that happened on the retro that teachers. So that's why we're a bit slightly higher than where we should be in terms of the percentage. But again, it's in line with last year's number, 77%. So that's tracking well. Yeah, so with that, so right now we're looking at a surplus, year-to-date surplus of just of about $225,000. Based on our budget, we should be expecting a deficit of $1.3 million deficit, but those additional grant funding that came in earlier this year that were, just again, the timing of those grants, right? It's not necessarily the most advantageous because we may not have enough time to necessarily spend a lot of those funds. In addition to that, we also know that there is timing differences on some of those expenses, so we still have 3 months to go as Jeff and his team try to start working on the summer work and things like that. So that number would get cut up. But whether we're going to get to spend $2 million in the next 3 months, I highly doubt that. Whether we're going to spend that much. But so the key thing that we're watching right now is if things keep tracking the way it is, we just have to watch our ASO again, because I've spent the last few months saying we're under the cap based on the projection. But the difference is about $200,000 actually. So now we actually have to watch that to make sure our deficit is probably about $300,000 come September. So that's what we're going to be looking at over the next 3 months, just to make sure we turn that to $35,000 into a deficit of about $300 to $400. So that's the work over the next 3 months. Any questions on your report?
My question was around the ASO. So what is the plan? My understanding with these grants
Mhm.
was that if you couldn't fulfill them this year,
Mhm.
that money could carry over. So is there any contingency around ASO and keeping them in that number that you know of? Or what is the plan to deal with that?
Yeah, so the timing of this report also means that I know there's probably, what's not reflected in here is about 150 that we have to pay back for the clawback, right? Sorry.
I just wonder, does everyone remember what ASO stands for? Because we're talking, but it's fair that you might not remember that that's the acronym, so let's use the word, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Accumulated surplus from operations or reserves, right? Let's use reserves for simplicity. So it's what we've built up over the years. We have a certain percentage that we have to adhere back. So going back into the budget, our number was $7.2 million. We were at, as of last year, just under $7.1 million. If we were to meet the target of the deficit of 1.8, we would be at about 5.3. So we would be well within that, right? So with where we're trending right now, we're probably getting close to that $7.2 billion, which we don't necessarily want to be at that point, right? So that's the baseline. So our question is, if we're that close to the line, what's our plan over the next 3 months to make sure that we're actually under $7.2 million? So my response to that is, first, we know there's probably $150,000 to clawback from our enrollment, right? So nominal projection that's going to come in. We also know that the report goes up to May 31st, but we have to do this report by June 2nd or June 3rd. So which means there are some credit card statement across all the schools and things like that. That's also not factored in here as well, which those tend to be quite substantial. I don't know if you look at 18 schools and things like that to get ready for the end of the school year. And then we also know that majority of IT and operations, right, they're going to spend the next 3 months really getting into their summer work. So that's what we're going to be tracking. So that's kind of where we know there's some expenses that are going to happen that already happened within those 3 months that are not necessarily reflected in here. That will probably reduce that the surplus, and then we're going to have to just really do a forecast of what the next 3 months look like to just make sure that we can be under the target as much as we can.
So about those complexity grants, is there a way to not, like, is there?
I suspect if we were close to that limit that we're allowed to maintain, and it was because of, there's a couple of ones that come in, there's complexity grants, there's been some curriculum money, and you'll get to recognize this as you experience kind of being in a trustee seat over the course of a few years. It's hard to manage funds when consistently you build budgets and then more money is put in at inopportune times. And so the third area that we have received a chunk of money for was around school safety. If you remember the grant of $225,000, we're allowed to defer that over a couple of years too. So I'm thinking where a number of these have deferability to them, that we could make an argument about saying this is why they exist and they're being deferred into the next year.
And I think it also made that clear too with the announcements, especially the complexity, that if you don't spend it all, you can defer it to the following year. So we have that.
You're actually supposed to defer to.
Yeah, so that would also kind of factor in as we work on it. It would be part of our projection for the next 3 months to see some of those grants that we can defer.
The danger, as a reminder, of being close to that ASO is there's a limit, and what's over the limit, the government can take back. So we want to be under the limit. However, we also want to spend according to the principles and the
Yeah.
prioritization that we've already had. So there's, there's some work to do because we don't want to be over it, but we don't want to be super under it either.
And you can't hire teachers over the summer, so,
No.
right, it's the layers. Oh, that's complicated.
It's
That's why it really gets big. But
So it's like a Goldilocks zone. You can't be too low, you can't be too high. You just, right.
Pretty much, we tell people that 6% of our expenses.
But then also you have to like package it into tiny little takeaway pieces.
Trustee, I have a question now about the first part of your report.
Sure.
I'm sorry, because I was looking at it. In terms of the CMR and the IMR funds that you receive, do you receive those every year? That money,
We get an allocation every year, yes.
so if I look at CMR, we have the current funding available of $1.6 million,
Mhm.
right? And so spending 640,000 based on those things. Is there a reason why we won't spend more? Like I look at, like, I'm sure there are lots of projects that could be done, and same with the other one, right? If we have a total of 776,000 and we're only spending 240, if we get an allocation every year, I guess I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, that's a fair question. So I asked the same question, right? And then I think it's more of a balancing act of what's realistic, what we can realistically do
Okay.
with the day-to-day side of
Sure.
facilities, take care of the facilities and those big projects, right? Because then if the director tries to leave most of those things in-house with our staff, right?
Right.
It's the same staff that have to do the gym floors and all those other repairs. So I think it's more capacity,
Okay.
right? And what can be realistically done. And then I think the focus is more what's the big ticket item, right? That we can address and then build that over multiple
Do
years.
we lose the money? If we don't-
No, this doesn't make sense.
Example of something, is there a limit to how long you can defer it?
No.
So keeping some of that for like a major boiler challenge that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to make sense, not that it exists. If you look at the 2 pages on page 1, most of those things on there are contracted out. We don't do asphalt repair and redoing a roof of a building. We might contribute some of it, but we would outsource. That would all be contractor work that they're managing. Most of this on this side outside of painting stuff is things that we do. So we do ourselves.
Thank you. Any other questions for Associate Superintendent Olajelli? Not seeing any. Thank you for that. The board work plan is attached. It looks like we don't have a lot of work between now and the next meeting. That seems suspicious. We have zone 1 meeting of tomorrow that Vice Chair Cook is traveling to Fort Vermilion for us to attend on our behalf. So thank you for that. And then we have another board policy committee meeting before our next meeting. But I suppose the next kind of few weeks before school's out, we do have quite a bit of work. We have our board superintendent evaluations. We have Charles Spencer's graduation. I feel like there was a few other things, but regardless, the end of the year is in sight and working our way towards it. Any questions on the work plan? Okay. Okay, there was no correspondence, there's no in camera, so I believe that is the meeting at 7:15 PM. So thank you all